Hello and what is up YouTube? My name is G3Iron and today we are taking a look at 5 ways that you can improve your leveling speed as you are progressing through the Path of Exile 10-act story. You can of course give us a like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified for more videos just like this one, and if at any point in time you'd like to jump ahead or jump around in the video to a particular section, the hot link timestamps are provided directly above my slightly balding head, and they are hot linked down below in the video description for your convenience. So today let's jump right into 5 different ways that you can improve your story progression time. First off, a bit of a disclaimer for those of you that have been around the channel. You know I love doing these, but first let's just slow down even as we're trying to speed up. This is not a comprehensive nor even prescriptive discussion on how to level. This is not the definitive, this is how you should be playing the game. These tips are only meant for players looking to improve their speed of play as a way of further enjoying Path of Exile. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. So those of you that are going, oh, but Iron, I don't want to go really fast, and I really like to go slow and enjoy things in a chill moment. That's great. Do that. Enjoy Path of Exile that way. These tips are expressly for people who are looking to speed up and improve their speed of progress through the 10-act story. So tip number 1 is don't be thirsty. So what do I mean by that? Don't kill everything in a zone. When you are too thirsty, when you are too bloodthirsty, as it were, simply you slow down because you go out of your way to kill stuff that isn't really that worth it. If you kill everything in every single zone that you interact in, you're going to be over leveled for the zone that you're actually in. And in the long run, you're actually going to slow down your time killing monsters in each act disproportionately to the amount of monsters that you needed to simply clear the act. So it's great for item requirements if you want to be over leveled and start using items that maybe would be overpowered or make the content easier and kill things faster. But even if you are doing that, it's making a choice to eventually slow down because you are killing more things than is necessary going through the story. So don't kill everything in a zone. And this is something that really shocks a lot of new players, that simply because they see a monster on the screen, they think, oh, well, maybe that monster is holding something that I really could use and really could need. In general, if you want to speed up your leveling, don't kill everything in a zone. Secondly, prioritize killing magic, which are blue mobs, and rare, which are yellow mobs, as these give much higher average experience than normal white packs of enemies. So if you have the option of either progressing straight forward towards your objective, towards the next zone, or detouring to go off to the side and kill a bunch of white mobs, or even blue or yellow mobs, first off, don't kill everything in the zone, and secondly, only do that if you need the experience to go after the blue or the yellow mobs, because proportionally they're worth a lot more experience than the white mobs. For softcore leveling, you'll want to be within 2 to 5 levels lower of the zone. If you need to catch up on experience, then simply run the first zone of each act, as these usually have linear layouts that provide excellent and an exceptional pack size relative to your level. So in Act 3, the entrance to the city of Sarn is a great linear layout. In Act 9, of course, there's the Blood Aqueducts. In Act 5, there's, of course, the Torched Courts that you're coming through, where there's the Uprising. Usually these are very linear, rather straight layout, so you can use a movement skill to go rather quickly as you're killing things. And so if you need to catch up on experience because maybe there's a roadblock, or maybe there's particularly a passive point that you really need to unlock a keystone, or a particular point on the passage tree that will really boost your build, absolutely go back and re-level in a zone that's pretty comfortable and pretty easy to level in. So first, don't be bloodthirsty. Second, don't be greedy. Don't be greedy. So don't pick up everything that drops, especially in the early game. Just because it dropped for you doesn't mean it's valuable. And when we're talking speeding up your playtime, every single moment that you are spending thinking about, should I pick this up? How is this valuable to me? How am I going to use this in the long run? That's time that you're not spent focusing, going faster, and progressing towards the next objective. So don't pick up everything that drops. Exalted orbs, by the way, can begin dropping from level 35 monsters. So generally speaking, if you're wondering, yeah, but Iron, it's like Act 1 and 2, and what if like an Exalted drops, or what if something really, really great drops for me? don't worry about it. The chances of it dropping are actually much, much higher later on in the game. And of course, some items are, like Exalted Orbs, restricted in their level drops. And so they're not even going to start dropping until Act 3 or later. So don't let yourself and your own greed slow you down as you are progressing through the story. Make sure that you are using a loot filter appropriate for your wealth. So you might be looking and saying, okay, Iron, well, it's the league start, or I'm relatively poor. How should I be playing? Well, if you're league starting, then make sure that your loot filter is set to rather open or rather unstrict, rather generous in terms of what it's allowing on the screen, because you might want to pick up more things, because more things are genuinely actually useful to you as you're leveling. For instance, in a league start, a lot of players will use a loot filter that lets all rares come through, because as you are leveling, you're constantly picking up and throwing away rare items because they're actually an upgrade to your character. If you're in the middle of a league and you're remaking a character, you might actually have some currency that's behind you, so you don't necessarily need to pick up every single little thing that you see along the way. Even if it could be an upgrade, it's not worth your time in slowing down to look at it. And of course, if you're at the end of a league or you're playing in standard and you've got a luxury character that you're building, then of course set a more strict loot filter, because chances are things that drop won't necessarily be valuable to you as an item, although currency still of course is always valued. So picking up too many things ultimately puts self-imposed pressure on yourself to return to town as your inventory gets too full. So spending time in town takes away from time progressing through the story, which ultimately is our goal, is to get through the story quickly. Also, don't turn around for anything that isn't worth it. So this is include a stray mob, or maybe whether that's a white or a yellow or even a blue. Like, it does not matter. If it requires you to turn around and to detour from your straight main objective of progressing through the story, don't do it. The only reason to stop moving forward progressing through the story is out of necessity. So speaking of necessity, buy upgrades regularly. That's our third tip. Buying upgrades regularly can actually help you go faster. So one necessity for stopping moving through the story is purchasing upgrades. You've got to stop. You've got to travel to somebody else's hideout. You've got to interact with a vendor. You've got to invite somebody else to your hideout. There's some necessity to trading to get upgrades if you're playing in a trade league. If you're an attack-based build, that means that you're more heavily reliant on your weapon for your damage. Then make sure to upgrade your weapon every 5 to 10 levels, because generally speaking, it unlocks higher tiers of damage that you can then use. In order to do something like this, you simply enter a search on the Path of Exile official trade website with the maximum level requirements set to your immediate level, or maybe one level above you, just so that way you can hit the next level in anticipation. And then what you're going to want to do is sort these weapons by either their elemental DPS, if you're using a skill that's elemental, or their physical DPS, if you're using a skill that takes advantage primarily of physical damage. In hardcore, make sure that your elemental resistances are capped 75% as much as possible. Taking 5 to 10 minutes to purchase a few defensive upgrades can save you 5 to 10 hours of leveling another character because you were rushing and died as you were progressing throughout the acts. So whether you're playing in softcore and you're losing XP due to death, or whether you're in hardcore and potentially losing a character due to death, always, whenever possible, make sure that your elemental resistances are capped. That is a worthy and needed upgrade that's worth your time to buy. Our fourth tip, use all the tools available to you. So we've got a couple that we've done here on the G3 YouTube channel. We, of course, have our playlist that's just called PoE Tools that we update whenever we find a new tool that's worthy of sharing with you all as a community. So the first one that I'm going to recommend is Poland 144's Leveling Layout Overlay. It's great. There is a photo of it just above, and there should be a card that promotes it, so you can click right there. Of course, the link is also in the video description. It is a wonderful leveling overlay that essentially provides you with a layout guide of each zone in each act. It's interactable. It doesn't read any data from the client side of the Path of Exile launcher or engine, which means that it's fully legal. GGG has commented on it and said that it's fully legal. You're not going to get banned for it. So all it does is it gives you a general direction that you should be headed for the next waypoint and for the next zone. It's wonderfully helpful if you haven't already memorized the zones that you are progressing through, or you're in an act that you're simply unfamiliar with or haven't done in a while. Also, a loot filter, so use the tools that are available to you. I use NeverSync's filter for most of the league and for most of my playtime. He does a wonderful job of updating the loot filter with some very, very scheduled and great regularity, which is wonderful because it means if you're league starting, if you're mid-league, or if you're end-league luxury, it doesn't matter. He's going to have an updated custom loot filter that comes out, which I really, really appreciate. Thirdly, use Path of Building to plan your character. It is an offline platform. It is a wonderful, wonderful tool that does all sorts of calculations. It's got a passive tree, a skill tree calculator, as well as planner. You can import somebody else's character that you'd like to follow, or of course you can just play around and mess with your own character. We of course have a link to a video on how to use Path of Building linked down below in the video description as well. Use all of the tools available to you because it means while you're actually leveling, you don't have to stop and think, oh, which keystone was I going for next? Which ascendancy was I going to choose? Did it matter whether or not I prioritized this damage node or that damage node? Was there a pathing issue that I came across? You can deal with all of those things before you actually sit down to play. And because it's an offline tool, if you're ever offline for whatever reason, let's say your internet service provider is out or the servers are down for Path of Exile or they're patching, you can actually still use Path of Building to plan out and build your character ahead of time before you actually launch into your play session. The fifth tip is don't be curious. I know this is going to be tough for some of you, but nonetheless, if we're just going to min-max our speed through the progress of the 10-act story, avoid new league mechanics. So if there is a new league mechanic that's introduced and you're playing through the story, maybe it's a league starter, maybe it's mid-league, maybe it's end-league, just avoid it altogether. Your goal is to get to Act 10 Kitava, not interact with the league mechanics. If you want to test around and play around with new league mechanics, that's totally okay. Again, I'm not telling you not to do something because it's not fun. I'm just telling you if you'd like to increase your speed, don't interact with new league mechanics. It makes you interact with it. It makes you slow down. It, again, stands as a roadblock in between you and your goal of unlocking Act 10 Kitava. Avoid side quests that provide either regret books or items. Sometimes the items can be worth it in terms of playthrough, that maybe it's an upgrade, but it's the same principle as not being greedy. By going through side quests, you are spending time not progressing towards Act 10. Unless you specifically need those regret books or specifically need a certain type of item at a specific moment on your character that you couldn't otherwise access through trading, just avoid it, because all it's doing is slowing you down from actually progressing the main primary quests that will push you towards Act 10. You can always go back and rerun your side quests, or you can choose to run them while leveling. Just realize that many side quests, and not a lot of people realize this, but realize the labyrinth, even the labyrinth as a side area, all of it 100% optional to getting to Act 10 Kitava. There are some players that I've played with who have taken it as a personal challenge to level all the way through the story without ascending, and many racers actually will do this depending on the scale and the timing and the size of the race and the competitive pool of people in the race, because oftentimes you can simply get to Act 10 Kitava faster without having to run all of those side zones and having to run several different versions of the labyrinth as you are leveling. All right, a bonus tip. Get social. Some of you are going to meme and say, oh, but Iron, I don't have any friends. How am I going to do this? That's fine. There are lots of different ways that you can find a guild. Good Guy Gaming, of course, we always reserve slots for patrons. So if you would like in the guild, it's free to get in the guild. It's just we always reserve spots for patrons. So if you'd like to get into the guild, that's one way that you can get into a guild. There's several other guilds out there that are wonderful. Path of Exile is a wonderfully social game. So I highly encourage you to level with a friend, because it makes some acts and Trials of Ascension simply much faster. So what do I mean by this? Well, Acts 2, 4, 8, 9, and 10, and maybe there's even more, Act 5 as well, have got multiple routes which allow for party splitting and waypoint sharing. So in other words, when you're doing the bandits, and I'm just going to use Act 2 as an example, when you're doing the bandits, oftentimes what we will do in parties is one of us will go to the right and we'll start heading towards the crossroads and towards Craitland, towards the top side of the map, of the Act map, and another one of us will go towards the riverways, towards Oak and towards Alira, and towards the blockaded road on the south side of the map. By having multiple people in a party, it allows you the flexibility to actually approach the same content with a higher rate of speed, especially now that you've got the social tool to simply click on somebody's name, click on the blue icon next to somebody's name in party, and you teleport immediately to their instance, to their zone, which is great. So just make sure you've got a couple of portal scrolls on you to drop a portal down next to a waypoint for your friend, so that way your friend can come through, grab that waypoint, and you can do the opposite as well. Another tip for this is simply running 2 bosses and then opening up a portal. So if there are multiple bosses like Act 2 that are essentially standing in your way, make sure that one of you is running to each boss and then opening up a portal before killing that particular boss to progress the story. It's a great way of really cutting down a lot of time that can slow you down as you are leveling through those specific acts. Party Play also provides bonus XP and bonus magic find. So you'll get more and better loot as well as simply leveling quicker in the zone, which means you have to slow down to kill stuff less, which ultimately leads us to our goal of being faster at completing the 10-act story. So what are your tips that you'd like to share? I'd love to hear from you down below in the comments. I always love the discussions that we have right here in the G3 community. Do you have any tricks or hints for other new players leveling through the game, maybe for the first time, that they wouldn't know about? Or maybe you've got advice for players looking to progress their speed throughout the story on their 2nd, 3rd, or maybe even a 100th character. Go ahead and leave us a comment down below with your own tips, tricks, and hacks for improving your speed leveling through the 10-act story of Path of Exile. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope today is the day a Mirror of Calandra drops for you as you are going faster than ever through the story of Path of Exile.